Right now on the National Weather Desk, destructive ice storm. Right now on the National Weather Desk, destructive ice storm. We'll see the devastating damage across Texas and other portions of the South.
But power has continued to be knocked out for a good chunk of our state.
The ice is more than welcome in Wisconsin, where ice fishing season can finally get underway.
The ice needs to be at least a foot thick before tree lines and truck bridges are installed.
What's causing seals to attack beachgoers in one part of the world?
These seals are affected by the toxic algae Pseudonychia.
And it's Phil's day in the sun, but did he see a shadow?
The time has come, I can feel it, the excitement, I can hear it.
We'll take you to Puxatawny for this morning's Groundhog Day festivities.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The ice storms that battered Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Tennessee is finally moving out this morning, but not before downing trees, knocking out power, and causing countless crashes on roads across the region. We start, though, in Texas, where hundreds of trees and branches came crashing down. This one nearly came into one man's house. Just look at that. He says his family was in bed when his son heard this loud crash. They looked outside, they looked inside, and that's when they saw a large branch through their window. Thankfully, no one was injured. The roads were an absolute mess across the region. This was the scene in West Memphis, Arkansas, an area that was hit really hard by the storm. Several semi-trucks and a snowplow crashed near the I-40, I-55 split. Look at the road. You can see it looks like a sheet of ice. Unfortunately, scenes like this one were all too common yesterday. And this is what the region looks like this morning. Thanks to the iDrive Arkansas traffic cameras, we can actually see the pavement, which is really a good thing here. But the temperature is just below freezing, so there could be some black ice on that road. Traffic, you can see here is fairly light. For more on the situation in Arkansas right now, here's reporter Kayla Christian.
Yes, good morning. So there are so many people without power across Arkansas. I mean, we have been really working, our teams have been working to make sure that people get power as soon as possible, but power has continued to be knocked out for a good chunk of our state. And of course, we have still been seeing lots of precipitation, lots of trees heavy with ice. We've seen a lot of ice here, not so much snow, but the ice has been on power lines, the ice has been on trees, and so we're hoping that there are no more continued power outages before this lifts. Now, our traffic is actually flowing pretty smoothly now. We've had some icy patches here and there, but on our bridges and overpasses, it's really something that people need to be careful of. We've actually had a couple of wrecks here due to just a lot of ice on the ground and the precipitation, and people just not really taking their time. The temperature is expected to rise here in the next couple of hours, and hopefully everyone here in Arkansas will be able to soon get back to their daily activities and their tasks as safely as possible.
Amazon delivery.
Wow, that's eye-catching. This is also from Arkansas. A viewer wanted to show us how his driveway was completely frozen. It was so slippery. You just saw it. He could slide a package across his driveway. At the airports, things are really, getting better. There are still plenty of weather-related delays. FlightAware says nearly 30% of all flights in and out of DFW Airport in Dallas are canceled today. That's down, though, from more than 75% yesterday. Austin, though, had the second most cancellations in the nation. So if you're flying today, make sure your flight is still scheduled to depart. As for power, the biggest problems are in Texas right now, where more than 400,000 customers are in the dark this morning. Take a look at this list. Governor Greg Abbott says the outages are not related to last year's mess. He says the grid is performing very effectively, adding the outages are likely local. We're also tracking outages, as you can see here, in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. Jessica Taylor has more from Austin.
In the Allendale neighborhood, swings are frozen, the many libraries are closed, and the trees are troubling neighbors. Over 100 people living in Allendale are without power Wednesday.
The whole neighborhood's out.
Mark Fuller was checking on his trees and his neighbors early Wednesday morning.
And so, Austin's pretty good about mapping out, the outages. And so trees are falling with all the ice.
Fuller explains that this neighborhood is prone to outages due to the location of their supply line at the back of the properties, which is where lots of trees are.
A squirrel could run, across the power line and make a transformer go out, but in this case, it's all the ice.
Dedicated dog owners like Whitman Howard are layering up for their time outside and inside.
Got my jacket, hoodie, couple shirts underneath, plus a really nice scarf to help.
Howard has lived in this area 3 years and says he lost power in multiple ice and rain events in the last year.
Are you tired of losing power, or is it just something you're used to?
It's both. I'm used to it, but I'm also a little sick of it for sure.
Now neighbors are rooting for Austin Energy to get power back soon and helping each other while they wait.
And now to Tennessee, where the roads were just as slippery and just as dangerous. This is I-55, where multiple cars ended up in a crash. It started when one car slid off the highway as a highway worker stopped to help. Another vehicle slammed into him, setting off this chain reaction. This man was in the car that slid off the road.
Man, we slid on some black ice and almost got into a bad accident. We were stuck in the ditch. Then I looked up, the dude with the roadside service asked us, were we okay? As soon as he asked us that, we seen somebody smack into his car. 2 cars got into another accident. Then I saw an 18-wheeler almost flip over today.
Well, that man's advice to other drivers, don't try to go too fast or else you might lose control and crash. But there are some heroes on the road. This Jeep Club in Dallas is helping stranded drivers. Their love of Jeeps brings them together and also to raise money for charities. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, they were helping out. About 30 Jeeps helped tow semi-trucks that got stuck on the interstate. Before that, they helped some people stranded in their cars during the ice storm. And another weather news this morning. It's Groundhog Day, and shortly after sunrise in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the world's most famous groundhog issued the most anticipated forecast.
But above all else, I see a shadow on my stage. And so, no matter how you measure, it's 6 more weeks of winter weather.
That's right. Phil saw his shadow this morning, which means 6 more weeks of winter. To be clear, according to NOAA, Phil has been right just 40% of the time in the past decade. Douglas Braff in Punxsutawney this morning with more on Phil's forecast.
Well, it's all said and done, and old Punxsutawney Phil over here says it will be 6 more weeks of winter. So if I were you, I would definitely keep the bathing suit in the closet for a couple more weeks. Well, folks braved the 14-degree cold just to come out here so early on a Thursday morning, but they kept each other warm with high spirits, as well as warm drinks, as well as live music and dancing, and even some explosive excitement in the form of a fireworks display. Notably, a number of people tell me this is the first time they've come here and that they certainly intend to come back. We'll have to be sure to keep their word on that. Reporting at Gobbler's Knob in Punxsutawney, I'm Douglas Braff.
It's certainly going to feel like winter the next few days in the Northeast. Bitter cold weather is moving into the region. In many places, lows will be below zero. But then there's that wind chill. It will be brutal, 16 below in Syracuse, 23 below in Boston, and 50 to 60 degrees below zero in parts of Maine. The financial toll keeps mounting after California's series of devastating atmospheric rivers last month. The storms left behind more than $125 million of damage in Monterey County alone, including washed out and flooded roads. There were also broken levees along the Salinas River, damage to several water and wastewater treatment plants, and also 100 homes damaged. But the county's farming community really hit the hardest, with 20,000 acres of farmland impacted by flood waters.
So now we're seeing really the full extent of the damage, and there's still a lot of standing water in some of the fields, so there are fields yet that still need to be assessed, and so that number could increase even further.
So far, the impact of farmland in Monterey County takes up $75 million of the $125 million in damage across the entire country. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, is there a connection between toxic algae blooms and dying sea mammals? We ask an environmental scientist. Then on to Wisconsin, where colder weather means ice fishing season is finally on. We'll be right back.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have one more bearable day today before the Arctic chill arrives on Friday. Most towns will top on the 30s today with a fair amount of sun. That right there is an Arctic front. That moves through later on tonight, 11 o'clock, and extending into Friday morning. There's a chance for a snow squall with that feature. The bigger story will be the colder air moving in for Friday and Saturday. Many areas will have a hard time getting out of the single digits. We're talking about wind chill values dipping well below zero Friday into Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Mainly dry for most, except for the southern reaches of our area, where a system glides over the southeastern U.S. Could see, especially during the morning, a few showers and maybe even some sleet pellets. Outside of that, increasing sunshine for most with highs in the 40s. Then we wait on the next weather maker. A cold front comes through with little fanfare, but behind it, some Arctic air as we head into the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looks like we're seeing 50 in Atlanta, 43 in Raleigh, 64 in Charleston. We're still seeing a frontal boundary moving across the area, dropping some rainfall and a little bit of a cloud cover there. But you get south down along I-75 or I-95 to Tampa, 80 degrees, looking at beautiful sunshine through the day. And then West Palm about 82 degrees. So there definitely is a big dividing line of the warm air and the cool air across the southeast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
1, 2, 3. Try as she might, this girl was unable to break through the sheet of ice outside her Texas window. Ice coated virtually all exposed surfaces in the region. This bald eagle was hunting for food this morning as sleet and snow fell near Tulsa, Oklahoma. And here's a view you don't see every day: a Rhode Island seagull taking a break and taking a look at a car through its sunroof.
Over the past few months, there have been numerous reports of seals attacking beachgoers along the South African coast. Recent algae blooms in that area have prompted speculation that the toxins are causing the seals to be aggressive. Emily Gracie spoke to an expert on these toxic blooms to find out if this could be the culprit.
Many of these compounds are compounds that we would refer to as neurotoxins. They affect the nervous system. Shellfish, which filter algae out of the water, they're a natural filtration, but they're often not harmed by harmful algae because they don't have a nervous system. But when we eat those organisms, we are definitely affected. Seals can also get affected when they consume these toxic algae. They either consume them directly or they consume them through the fish that they are eating.
There have been some stories coming out of South Africa really in the past year of seals, and lately more aggressive seals or seals dying. And there is speculation that it is the toxicity of harmful algae. Is there a scientific backing to this, or is it just speculation at this point?
The hypothesis is that these seals are affected by the toxic algae Pseudonychia. It makes a compound that is one of these neurotoxins, and animals can become disoriented. They can show signs of epilepsy type behavior. And of course, in high enough doses, it can also be lethal.
So if they're, say, sick and lounging on a beach and a tourist approaches them, could they also become aggressive?
That may be one of the signs of this.
Is there a reason geographically why this is being seen off the coast of South Africa?
Well, we're seeing these events all over the world. The physics of the water around South Africa have been conducive to these kinds of events in the past. We're seeing warmer waters. The fact that new events are popping up in new and different places is no longer really a surprise.
And head over to YouTube for a longer version of this interview with Dr. Gilbert, where she talks about whether harmful algae could be the reason we've seen an increase in beached whales lately. Just search the National Weather Desk and you can see the uncut version for all of our expert interviews. Winter got a wobbly start in some parts of the nation. In Wisconsin, Lake Winnebago started to form ice after Thanksgiving, but it's been a slow go ever since. It seems that that's changing because the ice is starting to get thicker. Eric Peterson tells us how folks are gearing up for a safe start to the ice fishing season.
Rattling behind this old red pickup truck, steel supports capable of carrying vehicles over cracks in the ice are on the move.
We staged the bridges last week, just get them on the lake so we don't have to pull them down the road when the busy season comes.
A check of the ice thickness reveals some progress. Fishing clubs around Lake Winnebago have an understanding the ice needs to be at least a foot thick before tree lines and truck bridges are installed. Quinney Plow Committee President Mark Ecker says these newly painted bridges complement the club's inventory.
We have two 75-foot bridges, two 60-footers, and then two 30-footers, and then there's 3 sets of ATV bridges.
Ecker says the bridges and tree line could be installed Thursday or Friday.
Well, everybody wants to get out and start scouting for sturgeon spearing.
The sturgeon spearing season begins February 11th. Jacob Schwefel says the cold also brings confidence.
Are we cutting it close, or what do you think?
No, we'll have plenty of ice. We'll be fishing, driving trucks out there. We'll be good.
Well, you know, winter storms can produce different types of precipitation. Temperature changes and the different layers of air determine what you'll see once it hits the ground. Meteorologist John Gum explains.
Take rain, for instance. With rain, you've got cold air aloft. You have snow that falls aloft, and then as it hits a thick layer of warm air, that snow melts into rain. That's how we get rain. However, there's something that's a little more sinister that can give us a big problem, and that is freezing rain. Now, with freezing rain, you've got virtually the same setup. You got cold air aloft, snow aloft that falls down through that cold air layer. Then it hits the warm air layer. Then it melts and turns over to rain. But unlike regular rain, with freezing rain, we've got an area of cold air below 32 at the surface. So as that liquid rain falls, it hits objects that are below freezing, and it freezes on contact with those objects, creating that glaze. If we have things just slightly different, we can get what we call sleet. Those are the ice pellets that fall from the sky. So it's a similar setup here. You've got cold air aloft. It starts as snow, but then you got a thin layer of warm air just under that cold air. So as the snow falls through that cold air and hits the warm air, it melts, becomes rain. But then a thicker layer of cold air below that refreezes that rain into ice pellets. So you get those ice pellets that fall. Finally, with snow, it's just all cold air. So the snow starts up at cloud level, falls through that layer of cold air, and you get all snow. It's all about the temperatures in the atmosphere, that thermal profile as you go up that determines whether you get rain, freezing rain, sleet, or snow in the wintertime.
And just like precipitation varies based on air temperature, the coldness of the air is greatly influenced by the wind. Meteorologist Christina Ernie explains.
Bitter cold air with Arctic origins is sliding down across the continental U.S. this week with some potentially dangerous wind chills in the Northeast by the weekend. It's bad enough when temperatures are sub-zero, but then you factor in those winds. That's our wind chill value, and that's just how cold it feels outside. Wind chill is the combination of air temperature and wind, leading to rapid heat loss on any exposed skin and eventually leading to heat loss in your internal body temperature. Here's an example of the conversion. In 0-degree weather with 20-mile-per-hour winds, it could feel like minus 22 degrees. What if those winds ramp up to 25 miles per hour? It'll be feeling like minus 24. What if we go sub-zero, minus 5-degree temperatures? With those 25-mile-per-hour winds, it feels like minus 31.
Well, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is ice frozen vertically. A viewer in Asheville, North Carolina wanted to know how it's possible for ice to freeze upward. This unique formation starts when ice forms cracks or holes, which allow water to get pushed through as the ice expands. Here's what happens if that process simply keeps repeating itself. As we go to break, a look at Montana's snow bowl from meteorologist Jed Kristoff.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. Kind of mild across the south here. We're getting close to 50 in some spots, but look at Bismarck, 1 below 0 for the high temperature today. We got some lake effect snow coming down off the Great Lakes for today, end of the day tomorrow, and temperatures will be a little cooler for most of us tomorrow. Bismarck, you're back up to 20 for the high as we move ahead into your Saturday. Everyone warming up a little bit more.
Good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Our forecast today across the region, and it's the last round of ice, sleet, and snow and rain that we're going to have to deal with this winter blast. You see through the morning into the afternoon, gradually starting to back off on the amount of frozen weather that we are seeing in Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Still some lingering clouds and showers. Sunshine is back in full force on Friday. A cold start. Temperatures quite a bit warmer, to 40s and 50s.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. Happy Groundhog Day. Many of us on the West Coast seeing our shadows, for better or for worse, on this weather holiday, with the sunshine at our backs and a nice 65 degrees out of L.A., 66 down the road in San Diego. Still very wintry in Jackson Hole with a high of just 29 around Yellowstone. Big weather makers, this big ridge of high pressure bearing down on the Four Corners, but you can see a storm approaching the West Coast for our Friday. And that's the scene from here.
On this Groundhog Day, meteorologist Emily Gracie looks back at the history of Punxsutawney Phil and some unusual traditions in other countries.
It has changed drastically from the very first Groundhog Day, where the star of the show was actually also on the menu. Yeah, that's right. The celebration in the 1880s featured a variety of groundhog meat dishes. Controversy over Groundhog Day continues, mostly among professional meteorologists that find Phil's lack of education in the field a bit off-putting. In fact, many have made note of his lack of accuracy, while others enjoy the fun that comes with the tradition. And while looking to a rodent for accurate long-range forecasting may seem a bit strange, in Zurich, Switzerland, they march a giant firecracker-filled snowman through town before lighting him on fire. The faster the snowman's head explodes, the warmer they can expect their summer to be. So, whether you choose a terrifying, exploding snowman, a fuzzy woodchuck, or a degreed meteorologist, you have multiple options for your forecast source year after year after year after year. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up tomorrow, we head to the hills of Wisconsin, where they're getting ready for fun in the snow now that the weather is finally cooperating. I'm Angela Brown, making a